Hello, friends, a very warm welcome, and let's go through today's very important sub lessons and topics which had been in the news throughout the world yesterday. In terms of society and in terms of understanding our social ecosystem, social media is very, very important and it plays a very, very important role. It is being said that it is not good for our health in general, but especially for the kids. That is why social media ban for kids not feasible. That is what Australia had done. Australian Parliament had passed a bill to ban social media use among children under 16. But the question is the legislature and the parliamentarians, like the Indian parliamentarians, they have done this under good faith, under good intention, but how to implement this? It is something to say, like the way we say alcohol or even tobacco use. So, American Psychological Association issued a health advisory on social media use in adolescence. Excess and problematic social media use could impair the ability to engage in daily roles and routines. Same thing is happening with India also. But are our legislature and are our parliamentarians and even judiciary are ready? Judiciary had been a little bit more proactive, and we must think about couple of judgments where judiciary was more empathetic towards social media use. So the keyword and the phrase is like the step center for mental health and unregulated and illegal use, especially through OTT also, the words are very common now. The cuss words are very common now. That is why we have to understand it is not the question of about metropolitan cities only, it is the question about rural culture where the clash will be there. This is going to there going to be a clash between the cultural and the social values reflected by a regional culture in India and a universal and unilateral and derogatory terms and languages used through OTT or through social media, and it is crisscrossing the whole ecosystem. So that is why administration plays a very important role, and we have to think how district administration and even police can play a very, very important role. Now, from social media, if we jump and understand that how awareness is very important, because social media is not giving awareness about all the good things, it has become a livelihood and influencer kind of thing. Then, in context of wild and bushfire pollution, more than 1.5 million people die around the world. And in India, in last 20 years, according to climate air quality research, then in India also IIT is doing that, and other institutes, are including Wildlife Institute and also TERI and also Atmospheric Sciences Institute. They have been talking about that how pollution caused by landscape fires, agriculture burning, like the way we are facing today, it has damaged considerably. But is it having a traction on social media? Is it a priority in election? Are we creating career and then paying the price for it? So grassland, forest, natural, all kind of vegetation, and the thing that I'm talking about, this is on the same lines. So the evidence is there. Health risk, which we know already, but then now it is empirical. That is why the role of administration comes into picture. Landscape, fire, sourced air pollution. Now the keyword, this phrase, and also 2.5 nanometer or PM 2.5 and ozone, because it is traveling hundreds and thousands of kilometers, and that's how geography uh, mains examination question also is on the same lines. We can also uh, quote World Resource Institute India, air quality director, air quality at the World Resource. So World Resource Institute you can quote not only for air quality but also for water, but also for other kind of natural and other areas. Again, there are nitty gritty and also real issues which are linked with third tier administration, because where we speak that bureaucracy must be more enabler, bureaucracy must be a facilitator, where we here we get most of the social stereotype and also societal mindset that babus are, or you can say bureaucracy, that is not only a elite bureaucracy I'm talking about, but the state level bureaucracy also, it is bossing over sarpanch, especially women. Now this is a recurring phenomena throughout. On one hand, we speak about that women reservation and also women being provided the grace and also the support to be sarpanch, or you can say the part of the political process. But in reality, enabling situations are very tough to create. They are being created, but not in a too long way. Then how you can think about that even air pollution or even wildfire or even social media regulation can be a reality in India when enablers are the public representatives and they are not being given due freedom, or you can say due regard. This is an example of Chhattisgarh women sarpanch, which was reinstated by Supreme Court. Please understand, Supreme Court had to intervene and speak about it. So colonial mindset, when we speak, then this is an apt example in a very brief and objective way. In terms of science and technology, we know very well that our body's defense system is a miracle in itself. But here, our body's defense, how it can act against cancer, white blood cells activated by severe COVID-19. That means body itself is creating immunity and it is trying to stop metastasis. That means spread of cells. Here all details are there, that how specialized type of white blood cells called induced non-classical monocytes, NCMs. These cells can be generated through severe infection or when you are infected by certain chemicals. And these INCMs, which is the key word, they are able to leave the blood vessels and migrate to tumors, or they are able to attack the cancer cells. 16 such cases have been found according to the research. There may be many more. So it has got a potential in more areas in immunotherapy. It is also explaining what cancer is. Cancer is a raw colony of body cells that grow uncontrollable, feed on body's resources, spread to other parts. It creates havoc. But the body's immune system, if it is able to stop means to degrade or to slow down the cancer cells progress, because cancer cell is actually reprogramming the body's immune system to protect themselves. It is a kind of a artificial intelligence thing that we speak about, that machines are going to control the system that we have created. So white blood cells are fighting back, ICMs are fighting back. They are derived from monocytes to circulate in the bloodstream. So we need to know from our basic series of science all things in a very, very clear cut way. Because they are having unique receptors and that is why they are doing it. CAR, CAR T immunotherapy, that we use of CAR T, where the patient's own T cells reprogrammed in the lab and reintroduced in the body, is also one other aspect we have already discussed. So we can also think how Casper C9 or CAR C or other kind of new development can be linked with this idea. Again, administrative positive progress not only is required in the daily ways, but it is required in some unconventional but very, very important areas and ways also. So 250 kgs of debris from Sindhudurg reef is a very, very minuscule, but is a very, very important step. When 7 certified scuba divers, they collected 250 kg of non-biodegradable waste. Are we having a pilot program? Are we having, we keep on writing, we have 7,500 kilometers of coastline. Then you can surely think of that we will have more than 2.5 or 250 tons or maybe 100 of tons of metric tons of non-biodegradable waste over there. So Fisheries Survey of India, what is the role played by the district administration? What is the role played by the Maharashtra Pollution Control Board and Central Pollution Control Board? What about the ministry? Only when NGO came along and local people went on to push themselves, for example, Malvan Tourist Group and even Maharashtra Maritime Board, like Youth Beats for Maharashtra Environment. So they are the birds which must be promoted. And then Union Ministry earmarking 40 crore for awareness program. This is not for the first time. But then you can think of thousands of crores is being circulated, maybe lying unused and maybe misused also. And we all have to pay the price. So think of more such areas in different regions and districts of India, because every region is not coastal. Northeast will be having something different, and Central India will be having something different, and Northwest will be something different. India is an amazing and a very inspiring landscape. So one has to think that. Again, link with the idea where we were talking about T cells, because COVID-19 or even any other kind of communicable and even non-communicable disease, they are linked with the biomedical waste regulations. Because in context of we know AIDS, biomedical waste is one of the short ways of spreading it. Mishandling of biomedical waste. 60% of India's health institutions and related industries, they are not disposing it the way it should be. And then we must create world class standards in handling the same, from the use to dispose to recycle. Ministry's role come into picture, role of state government comes into picture, and even Medical Council of India. They must be more proactive. So this is one of the area which is posing health risk to all. But then we are working towards it, not in a way we should work for handling any kind of silent pandemic. So very important, biomedical waste management and handling rules. Biomedical waste management and handling rules. And the role of CPCB and SCB. Are they doing enough? When the last time you heard about Haryana State Pollution Control Board or Jharkhand State Pollution Control Board speaking about hazardous waste awareness or hazardous waste control and disposable disposal? Because it's not that Haryana or even Jharkhand or even Tamil Nadu, they are not having hospitals. They are mushroomed all around. Forget about just hospitals, small medical practitioners, and even pharmacies. And think about 40% quacks. Are they not using syringes, or are they not using other equipment which are now you can purchase even online? So there must be biomedical waste management standards. It must be one of the priorities. It will be when more, maybe more awareness must be there. So that is why there's a lot on the hands of district administration. Please move on. So the question that we have been talking about, especially in context of Constitution Day and in the last one decade, Samvidhan or Constitution, it is being used, it is being talked about, may not be in the real sense, but then political, it is part of the electoral process. So one element says that civilizational consciousness is not there, or constitution is not at the ease with civilization. That means to say that civilizational consciousness is missing somehow. And this civilizational consciousness must be there, because if it is not there, then society is derived or denuded, or society is deprived of collective memory and sense of history. The question arises, is it really true to say that independent India went on to take the idea of constitution and its elements and constitutional morality by purposefully and knowingly eliminating civilizational consciousness? So the answer lies in the fact that what are those areas where civilizational consciousness is reflected in our constitution, so-called Bharatiya psyche. But then, if you go through articles from the beginning, even to the fundamental rights, the kind of language, eloquence, Article 14, Article 19, Article 21, and even the placing, and even DPSP is one of the torchlight which reflects civilizational consciousness, whether it is about fundamental duties and the kind of duties that we have mentioned about, including scientific temper to protection of heritage, and even in DPSP, when we speak about collective protection and collective growth, whether it is healthcare, whether it is workers, and whether it is equal pay, or whether it is about cow slaughter, whether it is about panchayat. So we cannot say that civilizational consciousness was missing, because the other aspect or the other part of this uh, debate, like we are saying that constituent assembly, when it was debating, they were having deep knowledge of India's civilization. Now what would have been the inward looking when we would have used those direct phrases from our ancient India? Then we would have called for some people that it is actually conscious, conscious is reflecting, but now because it is not doing so, that is why it is not being reflected. For example, it is quoting here Hindutva, national integration, but then it is again one of the views. So Hindutva is nothing but a true reflection of Indian constitution. So Indian constitution is bigger mirror, because India is a nation state, but India is a dynamic nation state. India is having a civilizational identity which is having modernity, progress, and great antiquity. So, for example, Nehru's objective resolution, they are the guiding principles. So, it is not a binary as far as examination is concerned. It is not a binary, they are coming together. Indian culture and civilization is being reflected. So, why we say so? Because in the last 75 years, we had practiced that. But you must take up the key words and areas, for example, M.R. Masani, or even Hindu Mahasabha, or even, you know, Ashoka's Dhamma, how it is being said, or the American doctrine of due process, which was being rejected, but now it is being practiced. So our ancient assemblies didn't have direct elections based on universal elected franchise, like we talk about ancient Buddhist times. Dr. Ambedkar sir also quoted that. But still, those elements are reflected in our today's time. So you have to understand and bring the best of the both ideas. When we speak about natural farming, again, the question comes up, is it being promoted through social media? Is it being promoted by the government, or government is alone responsible for it? What the MNCs are doing, farmer produce organizations, what they are doing? But here we can say the recently concluded cooperative, the global cooperative movement conference that happened and that been taking place in Delhi. That is one of the platforms for the millions of farmers and also the whole agriculture setup. So the new mission is actually not new, but it is an extension of already going on lot of efforts coming on the ground. National Mission on Natural Farming, chemical free system. So whether you talk about Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana, 2,500 crores of funds, but it is very important to see how they will be used. What is the role of Krishi Vigyan Kendras, agriculture universities, who are farmer master trainers, Jeev Amrit, Beej Amrit, these are the keywords. Krishi Sakhi is very important, like Drone Didi, and 22 lakh hectare, if it is there, and 34 lakh farmers are being engaged. So we have to understand that how we can replicate it. Because on the other hand, we are saying that farmers are not getting enough remuneration and there is a fight for MSP, there is a price depression, there is inflation, and there is agri distress. There are farmer suicides. So you may bring additional 7.5 lakh annually or in next 2 years, but how to make sure it is uniformly replicated and being part of Viksit Bharat, or it will be just on paper. 15,000 clusters in Gram Panchayats and reaching up to 1 crore farmers. So, a very, very important role of the public representatives in the state government and also political bodies. When BJP claims to have world's largest subscription-based party, and it says it thrives for India only, so then mission must be taken on more mission mode. It is different from the previous missions. 16 states, when you see the input of fertilizers. So that is why now ministry, when it says that it is going to focus on districts which are using high chemical fertilizer sales, which are reflecting that. Namami Gange region. Then indirectly it will be also impacting groundwater usage, it will be impacting greenhouse gas emissions, it will be impacting wildlife, flora and fauna, and you can create the whole thing when we speak about biodiversity and when we had already spoken about new legally binding, things which we are talking about, and just recently when we speak about plastic pollution, it is not just in the seas, but it is in the fields also. But when we speak about schemes with farmers and other groups, then health is a very important area. Central scheme or even a state scheme, what is the role of administration is to remain cautious, is to remain committed, is to remain binding. And when that is not happening, certain uh, 40% things may go wrong directly and certain will be coming into the light, like the way this angioplasty uh, case study that we are seeing. It is just one of the case studies which have come to light. Otherwise, it has been happening in Bihar for a long time. It has been happening in other states also, where people are. It is pitiable that people are having no other option, and they are very very simple, innocent, gullible people. They will go as doctor will say because for them doctor is God. But then are enough regulatory measures are in place which can sensitize. If we are talking about Ahmedabad, where was the Ahmedabad district collector? On paper, there is no partnership, or what one should say, there is no direct relationship of district collector or even SP with this, but indirectly it is their moral duty also. This health department will be coming under district administration. Just by revoking and suspending PSI license is not going to bring those lives back. It is not a dangerous. It is not going to stop the danger. That's what one can say. Allowing this doctor to practice medicine is dangerous for society, and you just suspended it. So it's a very small punishment. Due course will be there in terms of law and order. But what about the bigger ethical and moral standards, creating a benchmark where rest of the states and rest of the uh, departments also learn the same. So something of that sort must be seen. It should not be seen as an isolated incident. It is a kind of a systemic problem. The keenness to earn fast money, the keenness to earn money at all cost, and the keenness to earn money at other people's lives. So it is not with just with PM JY. It will be seen through other schemes also, and you can link it with the fraudulent and also spurious drugs also. You can link it with the food adulterants also, and so on. Similarly, in this slide, when we say that whether announcing cash rewards just near to the elections is amount to bribe. So the question arises that are voters sufficiently aware? Are voters sufficiently aware of their own lives? Are voters sufficiently aware of their future prosperity? Are voters sufficiently aware about their dignity? Are voters sufficiently aware about being a collective good? Are voters sufficiently aware about that our next generation will be employable? So these kind of hopes and despair will decide whether this cash transfer of 1500 can make a lot of difference. Are voters sufficiently aware of their electoral duties and electoral MG Narega, or even uh, 80 crore people getting food security and ration, and the distress migration that takes place, and the dysfunctional lives people are living, and on the top of it, the role of uh, unemployed graduates, more females and less males, and 50% of girls being married before 18. In those lights, it is definitely a very horrible situation. But then Mukhyamantri Maji Ladki Bahin scheme, or even for that matter Maya scheme, or for that matter Delhi government scheme, they are shortcuts by the people for the people, and in the favor of people. So it is a debatable point, but then we have to bring those perspectives which showcase. If it is coming in general studies paper 1, then that's a different aspect. If it is in 2, that's a different aspect. If it is in 3, that is a different aspect. But then cash transfer, if they are being done, then whole middlemen are also being created, and uh, the proper network, banking network is missing. And but then think about it: a person getting 100 1,500 rupees, who was not even getting 10 rupees, the hope that comes up with 1,500, it is a too much, keeping in mind the reality and multidimensional poverty, and also keeping in mind the the reality of interiors of India. Again, when we were speaking about civilizational consciousness from that perspective, when you see socialist and secular, then original preamble was not having this, and the challenge is being given, and the Supreme Court also gave recently its own viewpoint and decision. But socialist and secular, it was introduced, in whether it was introduced during emergency or after emergency or whatever was the act. But the key thing is that it was done through due, considerations. It was done through due. It is not part and parcel, and it must be interpreted in a broad way. Socialism is a welfarist state attitude. It is not anti economy or anti liberalization. It is not anti capitalism also. So one has to see in a broad way. And again, it showcases that our society is so much, and it is all ready to give space to all kind of thinking and all kind of viewpoints. And so that is why it is not wrong to question, but it is also right to put the things in the right course. Socialist is not going to tie hands also of the government, and similarly the secular doesn't mean that the kind of secular ethos that we have created and we had been promoting, and the other issues that are being raised in terms of religious character, that are also being reflected. So that is why India had flourished. India's ideas and cultural consciousness has expanded over the years, and whatever are the wrong doings by certain elements and wrong interpretation, that depends on the awareness, and also that depends upon the complete, or you can say broad consciousness of the society. So in that context one can see this. When we speak about this scheme, when we were talking about param that natural farming scheme, it is also one of the examples, like uh, Andhra Pradesh, it is being digitization of this sort, education analytical platforms and others which are being done in Andhra Pradesh. So these are different elements which are showcased here. So app integration, voice first interface, offline sync. So these are very, very important developments in terms of real time understanding, real time performance also. So you can always remember and also put them in the right perspective with different states, and health, education, agriculture, rural development, everything in a mini form can be appreciated. So Singapore, Estonia, and other countries are being there. So how it can be replicated in India in different states, and why not central government? Or do you really think central government by the Prime Minister, Pragati, or even other portal are there, e-governance portals are there, which is actually Prime Minister is monitoring, and even my government portal is there, or even different ministries when they come together, for example Gati Shakti, and in Gati Shakti also, or even uh, when we speak about water resources, then already at the central level, uh, such is the big ecosystem that to really replicate it is difficult and time taking, but then future administrators and the present aspiring administrators must think in this direction. And in order to make sure that all the above schemes and programs, what we discussed about agriculture, or even for that matter, the Andhra Pradesh model, or for that matter, bringing into perspective uh, other developments, census is very important. To National Register of Indian Citizens, it is being, a former Registrar General and Census Commissioner. He is saying so that we must be there, but the question arises that the mm, the privacy with respect to that, and the exercise is without any kind of pitfalls, and the 2011 census, which was speaking about individuals, including name, gender, date of birth, marital state, place of birth, nationality, family relationship, and so on. 2025 is going to follow the same pattern. So biometric data collection will be excluded because it is already available through Aadhaar database. So we must understand the difference between Aadhaar and NRIC, that is National Register of Indian Citizens. Distinct, what is the distinct, what is the purpose of both? Purpose is different. Very clearly you must understand, then only you will be able to write that how Aadhaar is actually a unique identity and it is a biometric based identity verification tool. So banking, subsidy, digital literacy, whatever is there, they are linked with it. Whereas NRIC is to, it is a comprehensive citizen registry. Aadhaar is focused on identity verification by any resident or for all residents, whereas that is citizenship verification system. So all people having Aadhaar may not be citizen of India because it is a proof of citizenship. Aadhaar is inclusive, all residents, whereas it is a definitive record. So it is going to play a complementary role as it is being said. Some is given an example where NRC had been done, updated 2019 to identify illegal migrants, and it is going to definitely benefit to weed out unwanted beneficiaries, and so many schemes that we have been speaking about, whether it is social media, whether it is about uh, agriculture, whether it is about you know uh, stubble burning, whether it is about health, everything is linked directly or indirectly, and that's how administration's roles comes into picture. So we already discussed, it is being repeated, but then do you really think that there will be digital revolution so soon by a government which had just come up? Revolution may take ages, but again, the key aspect is Telugu diaspora in US or somewhere else, they had been supporting the same. So same kind of model can be replicated for Haryana and Punjab. We don't see Canadians over there. They are singing, they are dancing, and so many other things are being done. Are they doing in the same terms of e-governance? Are the need of Haryana and Andhra Pradesh are same? Or what about Jharkhand? Or what about Tamil Nadu? So every state is an is in actually good faith moving forward, but then how algorithms, advanced algorithms and processes, they are really helping. That is to be seen. So collective effort is required. Certain key points you can take up. For example, Aryan Tech Hub, drone policy, and being a coastal state, smart city mission, or even other kind of big missions which had already been there. So what we can say, are they gone? Or are they being subsumed, or are they run being parallelly? So we have to understand that in the examination or even for that writing, you have to bring what is actually you have to see through, and what is actually required, and then you have to remember and bring the right word. Similarly, this has not been a first time issue, but long time we have been reading about abusing dominant position by Google, and by even Facebook is also there. So the question is that whether CCI is having enough teeth, CCI is having enough real-time data, CCI is having enough structure, CCI is having enough kind of compiling power, CCI is having enough control, CCI is enough or a big game changer. So that is what one has to understand. CCI, if it is ordering an investigation, and CCI, what track record it is carrying in terms of providing a level playing field. Because in case of Adani also, it said that it is not coming under the ambit, or it is not coming under the purview. So we have to understand it is a statutory body, and Chairperson Ravneet Kaur and three members, they are actually picking up. So it has got a more broader role also, and it must be more smarter, it must be having more global standards, and it must fit into the Indian ecosystem, which must be progressive. Counter terror policy is part of the security doctrine, but then we must understand that specialized terror units, which are part of security establishment in the 18 states and UTs, they have dedicated anti-terrorist squad, STF, counter-terrorism unit or cell. So anti-terrorist squad or STF, or even the idea of having a dedicated force uniform specialized terror unit, this is a very good step, because it is going to focus upon personal monitoring, and it will be having large expert unit, language expert unit, de-radicalizing unit. These are the very important keywords. Financial intelligence unit, they are four keywords, and then they are all part of national security doctrine. How to implement this? What are the challenges? Are we having enough workforce? Are we having more recruitments? Are we having, what about Then there are what we call it, when the comrades are also suicides are there, mental issues are there, no leaves are there. Or is it the only, is it the only responsibility of these anti-terrorist squad to spare us or to protect us from terrorists? What about rest of the society? How to do that? Already our forces are exhausted and modernization is being going on, and the paramilitary forces are not even at par with the army. So one has to keep in mind those. So it is already there, but then how it will be really making an impact? Where is the funding? Where is the willpower? And where are the role models in IPS who are going to put so? So these are all the real questions. Manufacturing is a very, very important key thing apart from services. So, we have to understand how India can touch US 35 trillion, not trillion. Can I have, what was that? 35? 35 trillion. Fully developed economy of 2047. Forget about that. What about the next one decade? What about yesterday we were speaking about aluminium or even rest of the imports which are inflationary and we are importing? What about the grassroots development? What about the MSME? The 5 trillion by 2027, third largest economy. How we really on track with that? So it is at a time when the Adani's, which is having great role in port, it is having great role in railway, not railway, I should say, in air, in other units, and it is also having great role in renewable energy. Everything is linked indirectly and directly with the manufacturing, whether it is auto, whether it is auto components, textiles, chemicals, electronics, capital goods. What about the import from China, which is being uh, uh, under invoiced? So we have to understand here whether it is, again, I'm repeating, Gati Shakti, whether it is National Highway Authority of India's game plan, or whether it is great warehouses, that is Concor, and what about the startups? And where is the role of steel, cement, and a great number of MSMEs. So whole ecosystem can only be changed when the recommendations by FICCI or by ASSOCHAM or even the role of Niti Aayog or even e-states, like we were just discussing about Andhra Pradesh. We were talking about a different level. So are they doing enough to get world-class manufacturing units, for example, in Tamil Nadu, for example, in Uttarakhand, for example, in so we are doing large number of summits and promise are there, MOUs are there. How much are they converted? Can Bihar become a great manufacturing unit? What is happening there in that regard? What about the dry port, which was recently discussed? So dynamics are there, but then uh, there are a lot of things to do. For example, this natural gas GST meet, because this is a technical issue of natural gas must be subject to taxation because of the two layers, central excise duty and VAT at state level, central excise at 14% on CNG. This is complicating the taxation process, and they are not able to get the benefit of input tax credit. So that is why VAT is there, minimum 3% and 15% maximum. That is why Union Ministry of Finance is proposing, it has actually received a proposal from the Petroleum Ministry for inclusion of natural gas under the ambit of GST. So this will make things easier. So, these are all nut bolts. When we speak big things, these are the real things which slow down the process. Now they will be thinking that it will be beneficial for petrochemical value chain. Multiple taxes on gas will be streamlined. Major industrial feedstock, urea, and capital intensive crackers. So this may be a very small but very crucial input when we speak about manufacturing. So the plan is there. Let's see how far, how smartly it can be done. And when we speak about manufacturing, then tariffs comes into picture. Indo-US friendship is not just dependent upon Trump tariffs, if 10% is being imposed, what will happen? You have to think. Is he going to impose like the way he's going to do with China? What India will do? India has got a very small role as far as manufacturing and other thing. Definitely, US is one of the largest FDI investor in India. US is having great interest, but then not greater than Canada, Mexico, and so on, as we have already discussed. And India must continue with the vision and idea. So other areas like India, UK, in some time. EU's carbon tax is also again their standard. What how India can tackle it? Is India in the position to dictate terms? Is India is in position to uh, uh, showcase them enough trust that we are at a different position? Your phase has gone, and this carbon tax is actually arbitrary and unfair as far as our growth and development is concerned. Our regulations are in a different way. What about laptop import guidelines? Is it really going to help, and is it helping? It is becoming if more streamlined. Then what about our ancillary industries and so forth? So that is why Trump, when coming up as a part of Trumponomics, what India's benefit would be there, we have to see very, very clearly in a crystal clear manner. When we speak about India's military defense industrial complex, will US will be supporting? What about critical technologies and so on? When we spoke about PM Jan Arogya Yojana, and on the other hand, we are speaking about uh, you know uh, center aiming at least one major hospital in each of the 761 districts. Now it is just thinking, and it will be going to happen in PPP. Lot of questions come up, and that is why the role of district administration and its ability to synchronize itself with different specialized agencies and departments becomes very important. Just recently, our health minister said that we are compiling 0.3 hospital beds per thousand population. Additional 2.4 million beds are to be there, ratio of 3 beds per thousand people के लिए. But then in India, there are hubs, there are zones. Hyderabad, Vellore, Chennai. There are zones for healthcare. So all districts, you can think beyond that, like aspirational districts, there must be aspirational hospital districts, and then it has to be uniformly streamlined, and much more you can think about, especially health centers in rural India. Social media we already discussed. It's very important, but then crony capitalism, no morality for the future generations, and global crises which are there in terms of climate change, which we don't acknowledge. Similar is the case of social media. Green energy, greenwashing, and the society resources, and the resistance shown by the developed countries in terms of not supporting financially separate funds, transfer of technology, everything is related. International tax legislations, they are not actually effectively capturing environmental nation, even United Nations. So the story goes on, including WTO. So the global South nations or G20 or G77 or even BRICS, they are in transition. Whether it is currency, whether it is trade. So one can propose, like UNFCCC introduced along with Kyoto Protocol, certain other measures, for example, quantitative restrictions on carbon emission. But then lot more had happened and gone since then. So UN policy must be not India centric, but India can propose a model. Global value chains can play more role for India. But to make it a reality, broad basing of manufacturing soaps that we are giving, and we were just talking about that how India's manufacturing can play a more important role in Viksit Bharat. And on the other hand, we are just talking about that soaps must be rationalized and they must be more broad based because factories are employing only 15% of India's workforce and the share is declining. Labor intensive segments, including textiles, they are not matching up to even crisis nations like Bangladesh. So job creation must be left to only services sector? Question mark. Or the way we were talking, manufacturing will bring India to a 5 trillion economy and so forth. Because services, whether it is balance of payment, whether it is other kind of developments, whether it is remittances, it is playing a great role. Production linked incentive schemes are having certain limitations. What are they? Are they the best way? Or they are actually putting all eggs in one basket because we have the limited resources? But we had been speaking about semiconductor boom which is going to take place. We have been speaking about EVs. We have been speaking about other kind of developments. How to go ahead? Supply chain protection inputs and minimizing the market distortions. Will it happen? Especially in the light of what China had been doing, and recently they had also pumped in more resources and money. So government funding of infrastructure is already taking place, but there are different models for the same. Are we having enough money? Metros are being sponsored by World Bank, and more than that, JICA is there, Japan. So PLIs and import substitution policies, very important keywords. You have to understand that canalization or high tariffs, are they going to really help the share of manufacturing in GDP? If you are critical about it, then whole game is lost. Because PLI is only 5% of the budgetary fund. That is 2 lakh crore for 14 sectors. But how to actually channelize it? Where is the vision? High-end capital intensive manufacturing is the way for India, but how to do that? Semiconductor, we are talking green hydrogen, we are talking robotics hardware, we are talking, but then what about the structural issues and are they going to be corrected? And what about the policy services sector, which we can do so? And at the top of it, in order to become a developed India, our human development is at the core, and our population means when 80% of when 80 crore, more than 80 crore are dependent on the ration, and on the top of it, 50% children are stunted and underweight, then you are gone because one third are still there. What schemes are there in this regard? Anemia Mukt Bharat and Poshan and so forth and Indradhanush, they are all linked. National Family Health Survey 5, which you must quote, high incidence of stunting and underweight. And at the top of it, you are having phone in your hands and enjoying social media. Integrated Child Development Scheme, how much Asha worker will do who are not even having any kind of long-term stability in their salary, and it is also not too much. And on the top of it, you are handing out 1500 rupees or 1000 rupees and to Maya, Maila, Maya, Bahin, Ladki, whatever is being done. Forget about boys. So Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, they are showing decline in stunting between NFHS 4 and 5. Jivika movement in Bihar is a very important example. But was it part of even Mr. Kishore's, when he was launching political party, was he focusing upon these areas also? Which political party is talking about it? Anganwadi workers are being spoken about in terms of, or even these midwives only in terms of they must be getting sufficient money, but they are not even getting it. So this showcases again inequality when we speak about 80% of India's resources are with 10% of people. When we were speaking about Andhra Pradesh, we just spoke about so many important models. Was there this community managed nutrition come daycare center? Is it being promoted? It is also being real time monitored. Is the money being transferred? So flexible and well intentioned interventions, but then how? As a district administrator of which state and how you have to think about thinking from your own district. We have spoken about this fiscal implications. We know not good, obviously. SBI research says, RBI says. First, we were speaking about, farmer loan waivers. Now these will be there. So the game remains the same. Skewing of labor market, obviously, when you have 1500 rupees per month in your hand, you are not going to eat. So you will eat and you will sleep because so much is the torture and so much is the deficiency. And then voting pattern we have discussed and so forth. But when we speak about other global issues, the duopoly and the monopoly of Indigo and Air India, how this is going to actually reflect the aviation sector in next 1 decade, and also from the economics optional perspective, when you see that where you're going to put it, because new routes are there. Then we also spoke about that how more money is required for pilot training, more money is required for airport infrastructure, more money is required for connectivity. And Air India is saying that private capital is there, professionalism is there, stability is there. There will be profitability also. It is talking in the long run. But what about the market dynamics? What about the air turbine fuel? And what about the common men? And what about the requirement? So though there are different areas, but then uh, certain market theories which you can always talk about, that which market theory actually here duopoly and monopoly is being, you can just insert in. So death from pollution we already discussed, and the graph 4 is one of the measures. It is an ad hoc measure, graded response action plan. What this action plan includes, and how to make it part and parcel of the people's lives, and not just in North India but also in the rest of India. How it can be, aggressively promoted so that more things can be taken. We are not just be happy with talking कि fail हो गया, but what must be done, how to increase. These must be the focus of this graph 4 because the article is not speaking about those things. Again, when we spoke about contract farming, when we spoke about the natural farming, when we spoke about that natural mission also, then buyback program is one of the ways. Again, it is MSP from farmers from at MSP rate from Tamil Nadu, Bihar, Jharkhand, and Gujarat, covering 15,000 acres. So this is an example of National Cooperative Consumer Federation its role, and we are already deficient in terms of pulses. Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Karnataka, Telangana, Chhattisgarh. We must understand farmer can make farming more incentivized, and double the incomes farmer is going to really help. NAFED is one, and what is the role of agriculture startups in this? What is the role of, when we were speaking about even Andhra model, then on the real time basis, are these farmers are going to get the analysis and the money, and how to bridge the gap between demand and supply? An example of indigenization and an example of defense and also our security doctrine is again nuclear capable ballistic missile, 3,500 kilometers, nuclear deterrence, K4 missile, Arighat, Vishakhapatnam coast. So the key word here is submarine launched ballistic missile, SLBM, solid fuel missile, and you must understand the whole class of all those missiles and defense equipment and systems which I discussed in our science classes. So this was all for the day. Thank you very much, and we'll get back tomorrow with more avenues and ideas. All the best.